Okay.
Right. Just getting
Tyler.
Devin. Oh, Tyler, Isha, Tyler.
How's it going?
Nice to be on with you finally.
Yeah, buddy. Likewise.
You got a sweet studio there. You sound great.
Yeah, we just got my company just got funding, so we got an office and got a whole kind of Joe Rogan style thing set up. It's pretty cool.
And I got my fake backdrop, so.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have even guessed.
I got the lighting fairly well, so it's not
nice.
Well, as long as I don't look right at it, holy smokes! But it seems to work okay.
Awesome. Oh man,
what a horrible live on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, what's up, YouTube?
Hello, YouTube.
I'm just getting everything set up here.
Yeah, we know the whole hot mic thing, so we're.
I worked in radio. I had a couple blunders myself. One time, actually, we had a bird fly into our transformer and take out the entire power to the building, but we didn't know that we had a generator that would stay on for another 15 minutes and kept us on air. So we're like freaking out in the studio, like cussing away, trying to figure out if we're still alive because like lights are like just our on-air light is blinking, our board's on, but everything else, the power's out. And I went back and listened to it and I was like, oh my God, like we were on air for like 15 more minutes before everything closed. And we're just like, one person's pretending like nothing happened, going off the show. One other, like I'm screaming at him going like, shut up. We're done. Like we gotta figure out what to do here, blah, blah. And then the other guy's like running around the studio testing and see if it's still live. It was, we ended up clipping a bunch of the content, putting it on a podcast, which was a lot of fun and making fun of it. And then we found the bird, the poor bird. So we made a whole kind of content piece out of it. But man, that was stressful.
Fun. Okay. Yeah. Hello, Devin. I see you there.
What's up, Kev?
Much. Okay. Just well for Sean, what I think we'll do is just kind of get him. We'll get because he's probably going to cut out. We'll give him the floor a little bit for the first part. And Heidi, hello Heidi, I know you're there. And then we'll keep going from there. And I'm going to go live on YouTube. And everyone just kind of bear with me as I'm going to be doing everything.
Sean's slacking.
Yep. All good. All right. We are live. On October 10th, 2019, Bo Horvat was named the new captain of the Vancouver Canucks, ushered in by legends including Henrik Sedin and other captains of the Vancouver Canucks. They win their home opener 8-2 over the Los Angeles Kings, and then they go on to hear from Drew Doughty say, "How could we lose to a team like that?" Well, that team like that got to the Western Conference semifinals and were one win away from the Western Conference final, but unfortunately not being able to score a goal in the final 5 periods of this series cost them ultimately being down 3-1 and having down 3-1 and trying to play catch up ultimately cost them, and they were eliminated last night with a 3-0 shutout victory over the Vegas Golden Knights, who will advance to the Western Conference Final. This is the Hockey Podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey. Subscribe on YouTube as you're also listening live here as well on YouTube, and subscribe on iTunes, Google, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And for everyone, just kind of bear with me here as I'm multitasking, as There are some people driving on the road that do what I do, the social media setup. That's Sean. Sean is on his way to Wainwright, Alberta. Where are you right now, Sean, in the car?
We are just north of Hannah, Alberta, just north of the home of Nickelback. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah. And yeah, we're going up to Wainwright. We're a week away from Calgary.
Right. Well, the song "This Is How You Remind Me" is just going through my head now. So thanks a lot, Hannah, Alberta, and all of that. Devin is with us. Hello, Devin. How are you?
Doing well, man. Just sitting here in my apartment downtown, and doing well.
Good. We will appreciate your outside perspective today. Tyler, Noble Nation, is here. Tyler,
Yeah.
how are you doing, man?
Well, I guess the doom and gloom, dark, rainy look outside is appropriate for how Canuck fans are feeling this morning. It's always a disappointing day to wake up after a playoff elimination.
Well, yes, that is true. It is going to be a tough day. Isha from the Sota Pod, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm pissed. I'm excited to get into this one because last night was an absolute disgrace, and I cannot wait to talk to you all about it.
Okay, well, get us going. Let us know kind of. We'll start maybe because Sean might have to cut out. I just want to hear from Sean first, and then Isha can respond, and then we'll get from everyone else. But kind of, we'll talk about the game. We'll get into the year, and then we'll get into the off-season stuff. But I'll give this floor first to Sean. Sean, kind of tell us from your perspective how you are feeling right now.
Well, first off, Kev, I think you need to turn on your camera and show us your pretty face.
I'm coming. I was setting everything up, so there is my pretty face.
There we see him. Good.
All right, thanks, Kev.
Magical.
But in terms of last night, it was quite frustrating to watch. Demko showed up again, showing us a third straight game and making us question whether or not the Canucks have someone waiting in the wings, and they've got a goaltender of the future. And it's quite exciting to know that Demko has that in his game, and hopefully they can figure out whether or not he's got the long-term potential to do that season in, season out. But other than that, it looked like the Canucks were just out of gas. They could not find any sort of momentum and ability to create any sort of offense, and it just felt inevitable once it came into the third period down, and they hadn't scored a goal. They wasted the 5-minute power play, and as well as a couple other power plays that they were given, and they couldn't even create much offense on the power plays. So it was very frustrating to watch, despite it being a really, really fun and entertaining playoff run for the Canucks. First time in 5 years that we've been able to enjoy playoff hockey for the Canucks. And I just really hope that this is the beginning of the next chapter in this development of this young core.
All right, Isha, I feel the rant coming. It's like you can feel the explosion.
Oh man, I had to bite my tongue like last night on emotionally charged tweeting away. But I mean, everything you said there, Sean, like I agree with. And Demko, he was outstanding. Like, but that's the thing when you watch a Game 7 elimination game, you don't want necessarily the only good thing to come out of it being your goaltender if you're going to lose the game. I think that, of course, and this is what everyone keeps saying, they were out of gas. Look, the Vegas Golden Knights, even playing field. It's not like the Canucks went into Vegas coming off on back-to-backs where the team they were facing wasn't on a back-to-back. Vegas had a very, very similar schedule, and last night rather, they had the exact same playing field going into that game. Sure, you can argue they had more depth, their top six plays less, all that stuff. That's all true. We all know this. We all knew this in game 1 of this series. Vegas is the better team. But the fact of the matter is the Vancouver Canucks took them to a game 7. And when you go to a game 7, I don't care if you're gassed or not. If you're a professional athlete, as a fan, you want to see effort. The defense, they showed effort. 100%. I have nothing to say poorly about the defense, some coaching things, because the fact that Quinn Hughes didn't single-handedly bring the puck into the zone himself at times when they needed some sort of offense and kept dropping it back. Like, that's a coaching issue. That's not on Quinn Hughes. But the forwards, people want to say that they were gassed. Show some effort then. When you're gassed, you can show some effort. I play ball hockey when I'm gassed. I still huff and puff and try to at least show that I want to play. Other than Tyler Mott and Gaudette, overall the entire game, who else showed really an effort? Nobody in the forward group showed that they wanted to win. Sure, JT Miller had spurts. Brock Besser had spurts. They showed that their talent came through. But guys, how many times could they not even exit their zone, set anything up in the neutral zone, and get any sort of cycle, even on the power play in their zone? That sure can be a product of being gassed, but overall, that was a product of they didn't have that killer instinct last night, and it's on the forwards, and it was a disgrace and an absolute atrocity when you have a goaltender and defense playing that good trying to keep you in the game and you show nothing. That pissed me off. I'm like, I watch and commentate for junior B hockey. They can pass the puck better than the Vancouver Canucks did in that game. And so why are you making all these stupid passing plays? Bring the puck in the zone, get some shots on it. It was horrific.
Yeah, Kevin, I don't think it's a lack of try, but I mean, it was very much my frustration too. What was going on up front? The number of passes that were just wimpy passes or just poor reads or what have you. It's just really how can that be in a game 7, right? That's where I'm with
That's
Isha.
the thing.
Just how, but look, Vegas is very good. They are a super stingy team. Stingy does get it done in the playoffs. I do think there is something to be said about their depth being a little bit more and allowing Pete DeBoer to run a fairly even 4-line game. Vegas was the home team for the 7th game. I don't know how much of that's really a factor for matchups, but it's an advantage there nonetheless for them. But throughout this playoff run, the Canucks seem to struggle with back-to-back games, and I don't know, why that is. They're a younger team. Even against Minnesota, I think they had games 3 and 4 back-to-back, if I remember right, and they won, but Markstrom struggled in the back-to-back game. So that concerned me coming into game 7. How are they going to perform? And right off the get-go, they looked like they just didn't have anything more to give. And it's just a lesson for them and how far they have to go yet. I mean, this was only the halfway point of a normal playoff run, and they were out of gas. I mean, that's, it's daunting when you look at it that way. So, for me, gut punch, obviously, at the end to lose the series and not get a goal in a game 7. If I want to point to one turning point, I know Sean pointed out the 5-minute power play, but Brock Besser's chance on the 2-on-1 with Bo Horvat, that had to go in. I mean, those are the kinds of moments in playoff series where it's make or break, and it didn't happen for the Canucks.
I'll give Devin the floor before I give my thoughts.
I am with Isha. That is despicable.
Thank you. Absolute despicable performance.
It's terrible. You're those are the moments that you play for. Game 7s. Your season's on the line. You need to be making sure that you do everything possible to get to the next round and show that you actually give a crap. And it's very disheartening to see. I mean, this isn't my team. This isn't the team that I follow, but even just in general, it was hard to watch, and not just because it was shitty hockey, but it was hard to watch because there's a lack of effort and lack of try, wasting such good performances from your goalie and your defense. That's you can't let that happen. You can't. It's really unfortunate. I was cheering for the Canucks yesterday, and I don't. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. I'm a Flames and Leafs fan, and all my teams are done. And so I apologize. It's my fault. Sorry, no, it's my fault. It is not Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson, Miller, and no one. It's my fault. So I apologize, everybody. Canucks Nation, Devin Smith.
Travis
boy.
Green talked about you in the press conference. Like that Devin guy in Calgary, I heard he's cheering for us, and that is the reason we lost.
Yeah.
I see everybody's point here. You know, I think, but we saw this in game 5. We really saw this in game 6. And this was just a continuation of what we were seeing all along. The only real big difference from, I'll give Vegas a little bit of credit because I thought for the first 10 minutes, they cranked it up another level. Like, I don't know, Devin, maybe you're sitting more of an objective observer than I am, but it really felt like from the first 10 minutes, I was like, it would be like, we've seen miracles, but this was a very different Vegas team. They just took this up another level. So I do think some kudos to them for that. I just seemed like a little, but it really seemed like from the forward wise, it seemed like a continuation from what we were seeing from game 5, game 6. I think the Canucks in a lot of ways, maybe the thought was all we need was one and we would win. They were creating the opportunities there. They had that Besser opportunity that goes in. I think from their perspective, they think that they were going to win the game. They felt like from a forward perspective, they needed one and they were just going to hang on for dear life.
Mm-hmm. That really was the tipping point, Kevin. They had to get that one.
Yeah. I think that was more the turning point than the 2 power plays. I think that just helped everything. That kind of cemented everything. But that when Leonard made that save, I was kind of like in the bottom of my heart, I'm like, this is not going to be the Canucks night. And yeah, I guess.
It wasn't their night at all, but there was 0-0 up until six minutes left. So it doesn't matter at that point. And like, I don't know, with me, it's like, I don't care if they would have gotten blown out 5-0, but showed me that they wanted to win. I wouldn't be pessimistic at all. But again, like it was just, there were 2 forwards who stuck out for me, JT Miller at times, but Adam Gaudette and Tyler Mott, they wanted to win. And all you could probably agree with that watching. Who else in the forward group? We're like Jake Virtanen. I love the shotgun Jake movement. I'm done with this kid. Honestly, stupid penalty, no drive, leaves his checks just open to take the puck and move. Like, I'm sorry, you can't do that. This is game 7, man.
Yeah, that penalty. I mean, we can get into some of the finer details here later, but yeah, that one was a pretty dumb one. They were lucky to kill it.
Yeah, I mean, and kudos to the penalty kill too for the Vancouver Canucks. They had an outstanding series. The PK was unbelievable.
They really were. Sean, go ahead.
Defensively, the Canucks are where they need to be to move on, but offensively, they need more depth. They need more drive.
Skill.
I wouldn't say more skill.
In the bottom 6,
a little more skill on the third line. I think is what they need. They've got the skill with Pettersson and Horvat and company in the top 6. Depending on what happens this offseason. But like it's the third line that needs to be able to pitch in and score goals. That was the biggest difference between the Canucks and the Golden Knights this series, was that the Golden Knights were getting consistent production from their bottom 6 while the Canucks weren't.
Yeah, Mr. Alex 3 Tucks.
Yeah, he just
Nicholas Waugh.
Yeah, and they can list them off. Like Chandler Stevenson was fantastic for the Golden Knights too. Like the Canucks bottom 6 was not good enough in this series, and that's what cost them more than anything else, in my opinion.
Well, they weren't good enough offensively. They were great defensively. That's what sucks. It's just like the big boys didn't show up to put the puck in the net. It's killing me.
Yeah. Well, Isha, I mean, you're praising Gaudette, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm hearing that you're of the it's a results-oriented business philosophy here. I mean, Gaudette, offensively didn't give them anything. Like it's true, we like them, but it's just another example there of where things were lacking. I think overall for the Canucks, they got to find a way to play faster. They just seem to be half step to a step behind throughout this series, and even the St. Louis series. A lot of it, they were chasing the game, it seemed like.
No, I agree. But to jump on that, I'll rebuttal a bit. When you're the only one who can forecheck, and you saw last night, there was only one forechecker, then everyone would change. How is Gaudette supposed to do anything by himself? And I get it. He missed the net a couple times, and that's going to come with experience because he's a young player. And I'm praising him just because he did something last night, right? Like, I don't expect him to score every game. Same with Mott.
And the alternatives to him are you want McEwen or Eriksson in there.
Yeah.
I mean, Gaudette had to play.
Yeah. Oh, of course. And it sucks Ferland isn't the Ferland of past, because he would have helped make such a big difference on that third line, or even in this, like wherever he played, he would have created more depth. So I mean, that's just so unfortunate with the, his health and everything. But if you look, if he was in the roster, I mean, if he was the Michael Ferland of last year, the year before, man, this guy could have probably helped him make a difference in this series, maybe even in this game. He could have been, because Roussel, he's the agitator, but he's not. No one's scared of Roussel out there on the ice. Myers is more of a presence, right? And I think that helped the Canucks a little bit, even though he makes his stupid plays and is overpaid and blah 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 blah. But they needed something else in that lineup, and I'm not saying a brute, but someone who can just, I don't know, instill fear, whether from a skill point of view or like I can hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is a. Oh, sorry. My thing is I think there's a lot to praise about Travis Green, absolutely, but I do think he should have switched Roussel for McEwen last night.
He made a lot of mistakes last night, Travis Green.
Like there would have been fresh legs. I don't think Roussel was overall effective, and it just would have just a little bit of an extra energy would have some way helped, because they were tired. There's no question about it, but McEwen's legs would have made a difference, I think. Sorry, Devin, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're all good. I was just saying, like a Sam Bennett type of player. But you know what? It's funny. You guys are talking about, the bottom six not coming through. Where the hell's your top six? Where were the big boys? Like, holy crap! Like, if you guys are nitpicking. And I'm not attacking you, but I'm saying if
you have every right to, man, attack away. Again, it was a disgrace. I'm going to die on that sword. I will never let that night down.
Totally. Your big boys didn't come to play, period. Vegas Golden Knights, they came to play. They were all over the Vancouver Canucks the entire series, entirety. The better team won, period. The better team won, and you can't deny that. You missed Pettersson, you missed Bo Horvat, Brock Besser. You can go down the lineup of the top six, and every single one of them. Can you say that they gave it their all last night? Absolutely not. Not one bit. And
hold on. You're saying that the Golden Knights top players showed up? The only player that beat Demko with a goal was Shea Theodore. Like, come on! Like,
Mark Stone throughout that whole series was the most dangerous player on the ice. Like, when he didn't even have the puck,
was pretty dangerous too.
Pacioretty too.
Yeah, through the whole series. If we're going whole series, then Pettersson showed up, Hughes showed up, Besser showed up. Like last night sucked. Yes, and they needed to be better. But to throw the top six under the bus, if you're talking the whole series and the whole playoffs,
Sean, consistency. Yeah. They weren't consistent. They showed up in the games they won, and then in the games they lost, they were nowhere.
I don't know. I don't think
that's usually what happens in playoffs, though. That's usually what happens. Whoever wins the top six battle will come out, and sometimes they don't score. And unfortunately, the Canucks didn't show up last night. Yes, I'll say that. They didn't. Offensively, they didn't show up. And I think part of it was they were so focused on being a shell in front of Thatcher Demko that they just, by the time that they got the puck, they were too tired and had to like dump it out and then have the one person forecheck, which is not good enough.
Oh, I agree, but they should have learned after the first two periods, right? And they just kept doing it and doing. That's what I say. Like, that was on Travis Green because he didn't change squat that entire game.
It's a whole team effort here. You can't Green didn't absolutely. Well, everyone's learning too, right? Not including Travis Green. Travis Green has made insane strides as a coach in these playoffs. Like, do the Canucks beat St. Louis without the changes that Travis Green made in games 5 and 6?
100% agree.
My biggest thing is that you said it, Sean. They're so focused on defensive, like putting a shell in front of Demko. Why the hell do you have to put a shell on Demko with that top six? That top six should be flying, man. They should be exploding the offensive zone with speed. That they should be penetrating the dirty areas and making sure that they can do stuff. But they weren't. They weren't even there, man. And look at the shots.
Devin, there's a reason why they weren't doing it, because when they did that earlier in the series, they gave up chances the other way and got scored on. That's why they're reluctant to do it, right? They throughout the 7 games, they tried all kinds of different things to break through against Vegas, and they didn't have that answer. And they seem to play, for whatever reason, I don't know why they want to play the strategy of stay in your own end the whole game and hope for a chance, but that's what they were doing in games 5 and 6, and it was working for them. So, it's hard to see why they wouldn't go with that approach again in game 7, although, conventional hockey wisdom said it's a poor strategy.
I just think after the first and second or halfway through the game, you have to abandon it if it's not working. Because, yeah, it did work, and 100% it got them there. And I agree, and I was so excited, right, as a Canucks fan. I'm like, obviously Vegas is the better team, but, worst teams win playoff series due to defense and goaltending, and the Canucks, playing that defensive game, were doing that, and it was working. It was just like, at some point, you have to just push all your chips in and be like, we have to go for it, and they didn't do that.
Well, I think the idea was they were hoping for some mistakes, and Vegas just didn't give them any last night.
That's what I'm saying. They put their fate in Vegas's hands, and you can't do. It's game 7, half of a game. You just can't do that.
Yeah, well, that's where the strategy is a bit of a flawed strategy, right? Like, if you don't get a mistake from the other team, you're where are you going to score a goal?
Yeah, and again, props to Demko, man.
And didn't do it.
And again, just another props to Demko, because I know I'm kind of shitting on the Canucks here, but I'm just a realist. But Demko, every time he made a save, I was standing up. My buddy next to me was like, dude, sit down.
Well, the one where he was doing the snow angel and the puck going in, and Cuthbert's losing his mind. That was quite the sequence there too. You know what? I know everybody wants to, kind of allocate blame here somewhere, but we at some point you have to tip your cap to the other team and say they were just better.
Yeah. Oh, and they are.
And we've all agreed the better team won this series. And from what I see, again, I'm an attached Canuck fan. I don't want to really crap on my guys, but I mean, they tried all sorts of different things to try and bust through the neutral zone in this series, and Vegas, was just so sturdy, and it does get frustrating to the point where maybe the body language does show that they're not trying. I don't think it's a lack of try. I mean, these guys are, they win that game. They're 8 wins away from a Stanley Cup. I have a hard time believing that they weren't trying. I just think that they mentally were pretty beat down from what Vegas was offering.
Yeah, I mean, if this series is 2-2 heading into game 5, I think it's very different. But you're trying to win 3 in a row against the team that doesn't lose 3 in a row and had a lot of other chips that, they had that redemption story that they needed to figure out. They blew the lead against San Jose. They blew another lead. This was a huge game for the Golden Knights franchise, of the identity of the Golden Knights franchise going forward. So there was so much on the line there. I think give their wingers credit, give their defense credit. I mean, a lot of people looked at the Golden Knights defense as a weakness, and I didn't see it that way. I mean, I don't think we talked enough about what Zach Whitecloud gave in this series. I thought he was that guy's a warrior. Riley Smith, we didn't talk about him, but he had a ton of chances last night. He was all over the place. I really liked him anyway. Bottom 6 of the Golden Knights certainly outperformed the bottom 6 of the Canucks. And really, I think Pete DeBoer calling the timeout when the Golden Knights got that was just the right time to do it.
Totally.
Theodore bangs it in, and that cemented it. And
yeah, glad you bring that up, because when that timeout was called, and the point of the game and how many chances the Canucks blown, you could just feel it in my living room. Like, this doesn't look very good.
Yeah, I felt the same thing, man. I was like, oh no, like, this isn't good. Kevin, just to jump on what you said there, if Vegas's identity is beating the lesser teams in the playoffs, then they're doing a good job. Because they had a pretty easy route now, and Dallas ahead of them. I don't know. It might be an easy route for the Cup for this team. But in my opinion, I want to pose this to all you and Sean in particular, because he might cut out here. Are you like on the train of anybody but Vegas now to win the Cup? And if you are, what team are you kind of keeping tabs on now who you think can actually take them out? Because I don't think it's Dallas. I'm going all the way into Tampa. Like, Tampa's the only team that can take out Vegas, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm anyone but Vegas. There,
Attaboy.
if you paid attention to like the tweets from Thomas Drance.
Oh yeah, the explicit tweets.
Reporting about the chirping and how cocky and arrogant they come across. Like, yeah, no, thank you.
Marcia seems like a little shit, man. Holy.
Yeah,
He's gonna be a villain.
definitely villain number. He's villain number one for sure. But I think it'll come down to. I don't think Dallas can take him out. I think it's gonna have to come down to either Tampa or the Islanders. I think are the two that can actually do it. And just for personally, money wise, with a hat draw we do every year with one of the hockey pools, I'm pulling for the Islanders. They're my last team left at this point.
Hey, it's a good choice. It's a good choice.
Yeah, I'm never supportive of the team that eliminates the Canucks.
Thank you.
If they defeat the Canucks, screw them. Anybody but that team. So that applies here again. For me, of the teams remaining, which one would I be kind of at peace the most with seeing win? I think the Islanders. I mean, it's been a long time since they've done anything deep in the playoffs. I've only been past the second round once since 1993. Now this is the second time, but 2016 was the other. And
without Tavares, which is hilarious as a Canucks fan, obviously not following the Leafs much. Sorry, buddy.
I was just going to get to that point.
Sorry, Devin.
It would be amusing to me to see the Islanders win the cup without John Tavares and to see Lou Lamoriello there and Barry Trotz. And
I love Lou.
That would be quite something. I mean, that's a tall order. I mean, if the Islanders do get through tonight, I mean, Tampa Bay is going to be very tough. I have nothing against Tampa, but of the teams remaining, they've won the Stanley Cup the most recently. So, I would lean towards the Islanders or the Flyers to win this thing. So.
I dig that. The only thing with the Islanders, for me, it's like if they do hit Vegas, they have the better shutdown defense, but can they find the scoring, kind of like what the Canucks did? But for me, Tampa, it's funny, early in these playoffs, I was like, I'm done with Tampa. I've been rooting for them every year that they've been this great team, and they've underperformed, and last year got shut out, and then this year they're finally going on a little bit. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll actually get back on the Tampa train because I think they can beat Vegas in the finals. But Devin, what about you?
I have to go with either the Islanders or Philadelphia. Tampa Bay, they're so talented, but they just can't seem to get over the hump. And obviously 2004, I'm not a Tampa fan. So, and then, Vegas has really solidified themselves as kind of a villain in my mind in the West. So I'm even just being a Flames fan, I'm not a fan. And so I love Carter Hart. Would love to see Kevin Hayes to get close. I'd probably say Philly over New York, but as of right now, Tampa Bay and Vegas, I hope they go down in flames.
To me, just what I'm seeing right now, if I am a betting man, I think Tampa Bay is the odds-on favorite now. I just don't see any other team beating them. I don't see Vegas doing it. I don't see Dallas doing it. I don't see Islanders or Philly doing it. Heart-wise, it would be also nice to see Alain Vigneault get that cup that eluded him from 2011. And
14.
And
14. I was gonna say with the Rangers.
And 14 as well. He's had his opportunities. I still don't think. I think a future conversation. I don't think the Canucks fan base gave him the tribute he really deserved as a coach of the Canucks. And I do think so. From that part, I even from a Flames fan and Canucks fan, I it's hard not to hate Vegas for how, in some ways, future conversation, how easy this became for them. This is this second cup final or second conference final in 3 years, probably their second cup final in 3 years as an expansion team. This just it's going to feel off a little bit, but to me, I just don't see anyone knocking off Tampa right now. I'm sorry. I think they're above and beyond everybody else right now. And you saw that in Boston. Yeah. With
Kevin, with you feeling about an expansion team, wait till Seattle comes in. Oh man, how much are you going to hate them when they start doing well? Because I mean, they have the exact same rules as Vegas, and you can only imagine what type of team that they can put in. So, and especially
that's assuming that the GMs don't learn from basically handing Vegas a.
Buddy, do GMs learn anything? Anyways, this is going to be an absolute robbery again.
It's funny. You guys are on either side. Both great points here. but definitely, I think you're going to see a different approach taken by the other GMs. But yeah, it's hard for them to learn. It can be hard for them to learn sometimes. But
I agree to a certain degree.
You're already seeing some GMs making sure that they put into contracts that they can be exposed. They can have the no NMC, but they can be they have to be exposed in the draft. So
that's a huge start.
But,
and that's a huge start.
But at this point, I think I'm going to have to bow out for the rest of the episode. Thanks for putting up with me for all this, and we will talk later.
He's out of data, folks.
I've been putting up with you my entire life, so this is
He's run out of time on the calling card.
For later. I got you.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
We'll get him some more minutes down the road.
Safe drive, Sean.
Patreon.com, the hockey podcast.
Yes.
No, Tyler, I agree to a certain extent just on the expansion draft topic quick, but I do think that some teams are just naturally like in a pickle, like the Canucks, like they're going to have to lose a goaltender, whether, and they were prepared for this either way. Just the chips fell the way they were, the timing wise fell the way it was. So there are just going to be some teams who are going to have to probably make some deals and work some things around, or maybe just make some sacrifices, not to necessarily benefit Seattle, but that maybe deter them prior to the draft. Do I think Seattle is going to be anything like Vegas was? No. Do I think they're going to be as bad as we all projected Vegas to be? No, I think they're going to be a little bit better. I'm pumped as a Canucks fan, though. I'd rather have a team come in and be competitive and like someone that's actually going to put on a good show rather than a team come in and we just shit on them for like 2 years.
Oh, when the Seattle Kraken select Carey Price as their expansion goalie, you're going to change your mind.
Well, I wanted to ask this. I mean, Isha, you said the Canucks are going to lose a goalie. I mean, are we all of the belief it's a given now that with Markstrom and Demko that the Kraken are going to pick a goalie from the Canucks? I mean, I don't know if that's automatic.
No, I think, and this is Jim Benning, please don't mess this up. They'll have to move one and get some assets and then just expose one, like whoever they have in the system or as a backup role. Like if they sign a Domingue or whoever is in that third role or like a backup in Utica that's not Mikey DiPietro. That's the smart move because they're not going to expose either of those two. I think they're going to, you have to sign Markstrom. And I was having a conversation with my buddy the other day. Like his camp could just want to go money versus with the Canucks. And do you blame the guy? No, but the Canucks realistically cannot pay him more than $7 million for more than a 4 or 5 year term. They can't do that. Yeah. But I think that the Canucks camp's going to do everything that they possibly can with their cap and roster right now to keep him. Of course, he's a top 5 goalie in the National Hockey League. No one can argue that from his performance the last 2 years. However, you have this shining new toy in Demko. So I think next year they play it out and they move one or the other. And I think it's probably going to be Demko. And I think that's okay because based on how he's played in the playoffs and how I assume he's going to continue to play as a backup role next season, they're going to get value for him. And maybe they package him, a Virtanen, and they actually get a defensive piece. Who knows?
Okay. I want to ask Devin a question here quickly before this, Tyler, because Devin is a Flames fan and we get an outside perspective. Would you pay for Markstrom?
I would not. I think that yes, Markstrom, he is a top 5 goalie in this league, and it's hard to come by. But with the amount of money in the term, I don't think the Canucks can do it. And having Demko, yes, this is a small sample size. Tyler, I would love to hear what you thought about Demko. Because I know that you and I have had some talks in the past about it. But I would honestly just let Demko walk, sign another goalie, and because Demko, it's like once again a small sample size, but you have there's such a big goalie market that you could do a 1A 1B kind of thing with Demko to try and groom him to be a good 1A 1B and start him out as a 1B and see how well they do, because right now there's not many number 1 goalies anymore, and to pay a goalie a lot of money like $7-8 million, and with the cap the way it is, it doesn't make sense to me. So I'd say, keep Demko and let Markstrom walk and use that cap space to bring somebody else in.
I think it just comes out of term though, right, guys? Like if they get Markstrom at 4 years, pay him whatever the hell you want. 4 years, that's still a building period, and the Canucks have to work out other contracts going out because it's just silly to pass on. For me, it's silly to not sign a top 5 goaltender in the league. I'm sorry, I cannot. Jim Benning, he's not that crafty to be able to put in a plan. Okay, so this is what we're going to do when we, get rid of our top goaltender. Maybe we'll bring in a backup who we're hoping can perform and do 1A, 1B. It just seems too risky. And Jim Benning's made some risks. I don't like them.
Yeah, there's a few things with this that Demko was great. Okay. I'm still a believer in sample size. We've seen this over and over again. I mean, look at Jordan Binnington. He had a great rookie year, and then this year in the playoffs, couldn't stop the puck. We've seen it with the Canucks with Corey Schneider. Came out outstanding as time's gone on, proven to be not as great a goalie as we thought. So Demko looks really good. If they can't, if they just can't sign Markstrom, they're in great hands with Demko.
Yeah, there you go. It's a good problem to have.
It is, but I think that the organization really likes Markstrom for a number of reasons, not just that he's proven himself longer, but also I think they really value his leadership in the dressing room. I mean, he's a very competitive guy, and very focused. And I think they like what he brings in terms of intangibles. Whether or not they can sign him, well, it depends. Is he willing to take a so-called discount to stay with the Canucks? Does he like the situation? We don't really know where Markstrom and his agency are at on that one. Can they find a way to move Louis Eriksson? If they can find a way to get that cap hit off this salary structure, then they've got a lot more room to figure things out, such as this. But and then the last point I want to make is, if they move on from Markstrom, where are they at with Mikey DiPietro as the number 2 goalie? If they feel like he's ready to stand in and be the backup, then maybe they're going to be totally fine with moving on from Markstrom. But I don't think that they are there yet.
No, he's a few years out. He's 2 years out.
I just want to make a couple quick points. The Colorado Avalanche right now have about $5 million in space as of now, and they lost a series. I think that if they had goaltending, they would have won. And I think that is a team that may be willing to overpay Markstrom, because they may feel that is their window to get that cup. And it's hard to argue that the Avalanche are not near a cup.
And fair, but I think this comes down to what Tyler said. It's like, it depends just where Markstrom and his camp are, because the Canucks are going to throw whatever they can factually put forth. They'll put a number and term and be like, we cannot go any higher because look at our franchise, X, Y, and Z. So I agree with that there. It just comes down to if Markstrom wants the money or if he wants to continue to be a Canuck. And I don't fault him for either or, but it's kind of out of the Canucks' hands right now. I don't think that they're like strategically planning to move on from Markstrom because they have a safety net now. I think they're going to throw everything they can at him, and then it's his decision.
Yeah.
The other one too, I just want to point out, how much does ownership weigh in on this
True.
decision too?
Aquilini,
right?
He likes it. He likes to get his fingers dirty.
Yeah, and this one is still, probably for him a bit of a sore spot. I mean, Markstrom's the goalie that came over in the Luongo transaction, so do you want to see him just walk for nothing after all of that ordeal? If I was Francesco Aquilini, I would not be in favor of that. I'd be looking to re-sign this guy. Find a way, Jim. Get it done. That'd be my direction.
Yeah.
I guess the other, just to look at some of the other big name UFAs with the Canucks, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with Sean. But I don't think Chris Tanev is as high as a priority to bring back as he sees it. When I was thinking about it last night in terms of where the defense is, I think you need to improve the top 4 for sure. I do think you need to add, and I don't see Chris Tanev in the top 4 anymore.
Well, I don't think it's a performance issue. I just think it's a cap thing. I like him leaving, it's not going to improve. And if they put in a younger guy there, their defense is probably going to be worse before it's better, especially since they have to test out prospects next year. Rafferty's, who's that one, Rathbone, the 2 R's. That's I'm getting them mixed up there. But we don't know for any franchise, it's lucky if one of those guys become a top 4 player in their first year, right? So regardless, there's going to be, it may be a storm before the calm in this sense, but I do agree. I think honestly, I'd like Stetcher to stay over Tanev just because of age, effort, and price point. And I think Tyler Toffoli's as good as gone.
On a couple of those, and I'll let you have it here next, Kevin. It's amazing what a difference a healthy Chris Tanev makes. I mean, he didn't miss a game, and they made the playoffs. They went deep in the playoffs. He was a huge factor.
Such a beast.
I think he wants to stay, but I mean, he's getting up there in age and he has the history of injuries, and that's a calculation that's difficult for them. They may have to part with him to make room for another D-man to come in. Where are the Canucks at with Olli Juolevi? He got a game in against Minnesota, but we don't know still. I mean, it was a relief to see him actually play in a real game, but if they think he's ready to take a step, then somebody from that defense core is going to be gone.
Yeah,
I would be very cautious about bringing Chris Tanev back. The amount of miles that he has. Look at Travis Hamonic when he came to Calgary. He a very similar player, cut from the same cloth. Hard-working player. Don't get me wrong, but you got to see that Chris Tanev. He like this. This will probably be one of his last paychecks, and he's going to want to get paid, and he's going to want to get term. And with the amount of injuries that he's had, I don't see why not. And it really depends on the price point and the term for bringing him back. But I personally would be very cautious.
Winnipeg, he's going to Winnipeg. I'm telling you, you heard it here first.
Winnipeg for Hamonic and Tanev?
No, I'm just saying he signs in Winnipeg.
Well, that may happen. Yeah, Winnipeg.
His brother played there, and I know he has ties there. I'm pretty sure he's a Manitoba boy. Am I not mistaken?
I'll look.
Thought they were Ontario guys, but
maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, they need defense, is what I'm saying.
Tyler Toffoli, I know he was. I think he was hurt. I think that we'll find that out in the debrief. He got hot with Miller. I think in terms of top six, they brought him in to be a top six forward, and I think if you're the Canucks, you're not in a hurry to sign him. I'll say that. I don't think he's an absolute priority. I do think that there's other options out there.
You're going to have to overpay for a 40 to 50 point player if you want Toffoli to stay. You're going to have to $6 million up is what he's going to offer, and it's not worth it.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it. To me, I wouldn't do that. I think the Canucks need 2 top 6 forwards, and I would like to see them move Pearson down to the third line. That would be ideal for me. And I think they need to find for sure another right shot defenseman. And I would not be surprised if the Canucks are sorry, Devin. I know that there are Leaf fans that think that Alex Pietrangelo will play in Toronto for free, but I think the Canucks are going to make a run at him.
Wow.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, don't say that.
That's just where's the hot take?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a heart attack right now, Kevin. Like honestly, man, I'm drinking way too much coffee this morning for that. Holy dude!
If they sign Markstrom, they don't have enough room.
No, stay clear. No more big free agents. No more. Stop it.
Yeah, I don't know about that one there, Kevin, but that would be pretty cool if they were able to land Pietrangelo.
I'd rather bring Tanev in at half the cost. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I was going to make the point earlier in regards to forwards. I don't see a scenario where both Besser and Toffoli are back with the team next year. If they do re-sign Toffoli, I think that probably means Brock Besser gets moved. Pearson, I don't know. He's left me wanting in this series. I think he's expendable if there's a move there that makes sense, but I don't know. We were talking earlier about the bottom 6 not being as good as Vegas's bottom 6. I mean, they got to do something about both the bottom 6 and the top 6. There needs to be a little bit more more threat added to the top 6 somehow, if I can put it that way. It's pretty good, but it's just not quite at that top tier NHL top 6 yet.
Agreed. Like they have the core in either one of their goalies, 2 top centers and an elite defender. Now they have to build around that. And this version, it was good. It was good, but there's still improvements. Like they still have anchors and, Louis Eriksson, for example, the Roussells, the Beagles. Once they properly build around this core and actually are able to insert like a Hoglander, a Podkolzin, some of these draft picks, maybe even a Cole Lind who are on cheap deals around them, who actually have some skill, then you can start to be like, okay, this will be one of those like sub-core pieces moving forward, like the Yannick Hansons, back in the day, the Kevin Bieksa's, for example. Once they start to find those, and then, okay, we can lock them in for 4 or 5 years. This is what we're actually building around the core. That's when this team is actually going to take off. This was a taste, right? This was an intro of, okay, here's this core with some pieces around them, not the right pieces yet. We still got a few more years, but at least it's great to see that this young core, they can shine on the biggest stage. They just need some help.
Yeah.
Here, let me just play this. That's terrible. Let me play that. That sounds more hot takey.
This just in.
Question. I guess that next question on that though is where are you? Is Podkolzin and Hoglander competing for a spot next year?
Podkolzin, he's still under contract, KHL, and Hoglander, I highly doubt it. He needs more minutes in the SHL because he had limited minutes this year and he performed well. But you know how European hockey is, especially with younger players. Well, KHL more so, but even in the SHL, they don't bring them in like a fourth line role, but they bring them in very, very like slowly. And I think Hoglander did get like more consistent time than a Podkolzin playing for Vekwa. He didn't play for Vekwa. Anyways, Rogel, that's what he played. I still think we're a year out before these guys even like make a chance to come in. Well, again, Podkolzin because he's under contract, but Hoglander he needs another year, I think.
Hoglander is an interesting one. I'm sure there's a lot of intrigue with Canucks brass about whether he can play next year. That would certainly help ease the cap situation when you bring a guy in on an entry level deal that can make an impact. But
I'm excited to see how William Lockwood does in the A, to be perfectly honest. I've been high on this guy for a while. I know he had faced some injuries in college, and with the shortened college season, right, only like 30 plus games, if you suffer an injury, that could be your whole season. And he's kind of faced that these last few years, but the Canucks had confidence in signing him despite all that. And I'm excited to see what he brings to the A, because I think if he tightens up his game and plays a little, because he kind of reminded me of the way Sven Verchi played, where the skill was there and he would forecheck, but he kind of just like ragdoll his body in the boards, and it would really hurt him, and he'd leave his body like susceptible to injury. Lockwood kind of played that style in college, and I'm hoping that things get tightened up in the A. He can show that he can strengthen a little bit and maybe be a third line threat, because he's got a shot and he's like an A to B north-south Hudson Bay Road type of player. But I really think I really think there's something there, and I'm excited to see how he performs in the A as well.
Anytime that you bring over people from or young players from overseas, you got to give them a little bit of time to adjust, and to expect them to jump in the NHL right away is a tough ask. And I personally, I don't see Hoglander or Podkolzin coming in and making a big difference unless they're one of a kind elite player. So to the Canucks fans thinking that that could be a possibility, temper your expectations a little bit, but you have two really good players right there.
All right, so I guess a few other quick things here. Isha is Jake Virtanen's out. Tyler, where are you at? Is he out?
I'm so disappointed, man.
I think if I had to bet on that, I think he's probably not coming back. I think just between on ice lack of production and off the ice frustrations with his commitment level, I think they've probably seen enough. I know they're always reluctant to part with guys that were drafted in the first round, especially as high as he was, but he's had a long time to figure it out with the Canucks, and I just don't think we're going to see much more than what we've seen in these playoffs. So I want to like the guy. He's a BC guy, he's worn the passion on his sleeve and everything like that, all those things. But I think, if you're looking to improve the team, that's a piece that, other teams might be interested in that could help you improve your team.
Man, I had season tickets to the Calgary Hitmen when he scored 40 goals that year. So I've been invested in this kid for way too long. And now I'm just like, I'm done. You tugged on my heartstrings way too much, Jakey.
Yeah. I mean, let's not be like other markets in Toronto where we're just running people out, I don't want it to sound like that. And, and there was a time where, Canadian hockey fans are making Jake Virtanen the scapegoat for a loss at the World Junior Tournament. I mean, we don't need to do that and kick the guy on the way out. But I think we've seen enough with Jake Virtanen to know what he can offer, and that's an area where they need to improve.
Because Zach McEwen should be a full-time.
He will. He'll be that like presence on the fourth line, and well deserved. Is he going to put up a ton of points? No, but that's not what anyone expects him to do.
No.
Hate on the side of caution there, gents, about running guys out of town, because for the longest time in Calgary, we were wanting Sam Bennett to be better, and we were expecting him to be better, right? And it might just be a bigger learning curve for him to become a impactful NHLer and a true professional. So, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from, and being upset with his play. But I don't know. He could be a very impactful player going forward for you guys if you give him a little bit more time and maybe a bit more leadership around him. Well,
I think Sam Bennett proved that, he wanted to do the work to become that different role member, where Jake Virtanen hasn't showed any of that. So that's the difference. It's like we're just waiting for him to show us, like, what do you want to do? What kind of player do you want to be? Because you have tools to be a fast player and a shooter. You have tools to be a shit disturber, and you have tools to be a forechecker, but you're not doing any of that. Sam Bennett at least realized, I have the skill to rip it up in junior, maybe minors, but if I'm going to be an impactful player in this league, I have to play this way. And props to him, he did it. And the Calgary Flames, I think, had a little bit more confidence in him and his work ethic, whereas Jake Virtanen, it's open dialogue. The Vancouver Canucks haven't been impressed with his work ethic on and off the ice.
Yeah, and Jake said, he was drafted 6 years ago, came into the league 5 years ago, has been a full-time NHL player for 3 now, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think it's a too small a sample to judge Jake Virtanen on.
Well, it also depends on whether or not the upper grass has seen improvement with his progression, just being a human being and a professional. And obviously, you're not seeing it on the ice. So yeah, like I said, I completely understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's easier to make that decision when you have a Zach McEwen in the wings, and you have a Cole Lind in the wings. It's easier to look at that and say, we can trade Jake Virtanen and get something for him. We don't need to be frustrated with him anymore. From the Vancouver side,
Sweetener, baby, throw him in the mix. Let's get Lou Erickson out of town. Woo!
Well, it may, it's a good point. It may take something like that to get that Erickson contract out of there.
Hey, one of those defenders that Canucks fans are, getting way too excited about and we haven't seen yet, Virtanen and Erickson. That'll get him out of town. Rafferty, Virtanen, goodbye Erickson. Let's go.
Kevin, where's that little ding every time that we say sweetener?
Oh yeah. I'll get that.
Yeah, Isha, for context here, I'm against the word sweetener. I just think it's just silly. So every time I hear it,
it's like the key word now in articles and stuff. I write a bit for one of the Minnesota Wild blogs for SB Nation, and like sometimes my editor will like literally put in the word sweetener when I write like different synonyms and stuff. So it's pretty funny.
There
it is.
There it is. Sorry,
too bad Sean wasn't here for that because he trolls me with that all the time.
Nice. He's gonna be listening back and smiling for sure.
Yeah. Any other pressing issues with the Canucks that we? Actually, one more. Rick Dollywell reported last night that Travis Green is on pace to get an extension. I'm not disputing that. I think Travis Green has done a good job. Here's an interesting point. One of the Stanley Cup finalists this year will have a new coach that they brought in mid-season. It'll either be Dallas or Vegas. Dallas, for different reasons. Rick Bowen is being the interim coach in Dallas. Pete DeBoer coming in as a coach in Vegas. The former Stanley Cup champions, Craig Berube was the coach last year in St. Louis, came in on an interim basis. The Pittsburgh Penguins replaced a coach and won a Stanley Cup. Where is your leash with Travis Green? And I know that that's a tough question to bring up right after this, but the reason I'm bringing that up is I'm not trying to be an ass, but it does seem that there is an approach to the approach to coaching in the NHL is changing.
I mean, I respectfully disagree. All those teams that you laid out are like amazing teams. So it was clearly a culture issue there. And like, okay, I'll give another example. Dean Evison, he had a good after, like not even second half, but if, last cup of coffee with the Wild come playoffs, they didn't do squat. So I don't know about that logic in entirety, but where my thoughts lie with Travis Green, he took a rebuilding team that was anchored by older players and contracts and got the best out of the young players that bought in. Whether like we were just talking about Jake Virtanen, and how he's disappointed us. The guy still got 18 goals this year, working under Travis Green's system, and Travis was very, very hard on him. I think Travis demands respect, being a former player, being someone who's passionate, being a player being a player at the time who had to change his game, much like a Sam Bennett coming into the National Hockey League. And I think that the players who do well under him, the core pieces, they like his fire and they're buying in. And I think that that's so important when you're building a core to move forward with. And I don't think he's done anything wrong. He's served all my expectations as a coach. Do I rag on some of his coaching decisions at times? Yeah, because I do a podcast and I got to talk about something. But at the end of the day, I'm impressed. I'm happy. And I think 100% he deserves an extension.
Yeah, I don't think the use of the word leash is appropriate here for Travis Green. I think, for sure he is the coach all the way through next season. If they miss the playoffs and they fall way short or something massively disappointing, then we can call into question whether he's going to last. But I agree with Rick Dollywell. I think an extension is definitely there, and it's for all the reasons that Isha just mentioned. I mean, the very clearly you can see the buy-in from the team as to what the coach wants to do, and the owner's always given Travis credit, Jim and Travis, but the coach the owner always mentions Travis as far as being a big reason for the Canucks doing so well these days. So, and
just as a fan, don't you just feel the confidence he's even watching and hearing him speak than you did with, and taking nothing away from Willie Desjardins, but when he was like year 2 after that Stanley Cup playoffs appearance, you kind of just knew that, okay, he's the interim, like he's in between the next step of Jim Benning. And as soon as Travis came in, I went, they're going all in on this guy. I feel it.
Yeah. I'm not trying to. I'm not saying like he's going to be fired next year, but the trend around coaching right now in the National Hockey League is fascinating. How easy that trigger is being pulled is my point. That's where I'm coming from, and I'm not
fair,
saying,
but with good teams, I think, not Canucks stage teams. You know what I mean? Like teams that are like, we're supposed to be winning right now, we're not. We got to bring in a different voice. Or the Canucks, they're still building.
I think if the Canucks were to fall well short of the playoffs next year, it's actually Jim Benning that's more in the crosshairs.
100%. Oh yeah,
the coach there, Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with the new age NHLers that are coming in, having a players coach is massive, and Travis Green has really shown that he's a leader and not a dictator. And those are the coaches, and even just as a boss, I personally really I'm receptive to people showing me and not telling me. Mm-hmm. And I think it's apparent that Travis Green has the room, and he won't lose it anytime soon. And Jim Benning, I'd say he's on the hot seat more so than Travis Green. And just think about it in the sense that if they do let Travis Green go, how fast he would be picked up by another team.
Oh yeah. Instantly.
The seat I don't think is as warm under Jim Benning now as it was, before the restart. Clearly, everybody can see that what Jim's put together here is a pretty good formula for playoff hockey. And a lot of people had doubts about whether this could work, and they got to Game 7 of the second round. Mm-hmm. So I don't, the Canucks would have really, really performed poorly next year for Jim Benning to lose his job. But I think it's more likely that the change is made there if they miss the playoffs than with the coach, for sure.
Yeah. And I, what was I going to say? That's good podcasting. What I will say, we've said this already. This is his most important off season for Benning, for sure. Like he's got his work cut out for him. Holy, and in a fast time. So,
and no matter what he does, he's going to get shit on. No matter what he does.
It's Canucks Twitter, of course.
Yeah.
No, it's just the nature of the job. It's easy for us to criticize it. We're not the ones in the position of having to make the call on these moves, right?
And to be honest, I've been more positive towards Jim Benning than most on Canucks Twitter, because I've really highlighted that, like, he started with nothing and he actually filled the cabinets and built a core. Did he give out terrible contracts? 100%. That's why I'm like, don't even worry about free agency right now. Just take care of your shit that's in-house, clean up the house before you, bring in some more guests.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every general manager makes poor signings too.
Exactly.
Need to remember that.
Yeah.
Well, remember though, one of his signings was Thomas Vanek, which got you Tyler Mott.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yeah.
So, sometimes he has shown a little bit of shrewdness, but not.
He's a good scout. He sees talent, but sometimes it's in a 30-year-old who's going to drop off and not score 30 goals.
Well, that's a great point. This is the key, right? Like if he's really, if he's really confident in what he's got in his system, the ability to make some changes through trade, or that he's got a lot more options there.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to go back very quickly to Travis Green. I think one of the reasons why he gets so much respect in that dressing room is that he runs it like a meritocracy. The veterans don't get a free pass there.
Mhm.
I mean, a guy like Louis Eriksson, doesn't matter if he's making $6 million a year. He's got to perform or he's not playing. We've seen him, I think, parked for a stretch of 9 games in a row during the regular season. Ultimately, he got passed over in favor of Toffoli once he was healthy again. So, I think that works for everybody. And it's been interesting because guys that have left that didn't get to play much, like Michael Del Zotto in the past, they've all been very professional, and they haven't been kicking dirt on the organization on their way out, like we've seen with some players from other places like Edmonton, for example, kind of bitter on the way out. So I don't think there's any issues with how Travis Green's running the team, and I think the culture in the dressing room's been great with him being in that position. So
he's got a Rod Brindamore vibes just outside of the weight room.
Yes, yeah, not quite the Rod bod, but
no,
vibes,
he's starting to get the old coaching bod there, Mr. Travis Green. But well deserved. Professional athlete your whole career. You can go for the Hortons and donuts in the morning and not feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we need to chat about with the Canucks? Pressing issues?
I just wanted to say, last night, from what I could gather through Twitter, I mean, it was a pretty upbeat, positive, looking forward to the future tone from the fans. I mean, it's just like kind of a shock to the system to see.
I was the most negative, and I was like, usually
I know you're just guns a-blazing. But, I mean, ultimately, as time goes on and people have a chance to really break it down a little further and think about it with more level-headed, there'll be some critiques and pointing of fingers, I'm sure, but it was nice to see a pretty positive tone there. And then, of course, the narrative around the Canucks from Eastern media was likable team, and that was refreshing to see that as opposed to what we've dealt with in the past. I think one thing that makes a huge difference there, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, is the Eastern media love Travis Green. And so I don't think they were ever that big on Alain Vigneault, to be quite honest. But they love Travis Green. So I think there's a bit more benefit of the doubt offered to the Canucks with him being the coach. And I think that's always a helpful thing in terms of the players, not having as much weight of expectation on their shoulders.
Looking back at this too, let's go back to the lottery when the placeholder team won the lottery and was getting the first pick, and you heard, and this has been the synopsis of Canucks Twitter is just and ever since I've lived here, and I've lived here for 5 years, it's been like tank, get the picks, get the first pick, get that first pick, tank. And it even became that debate. But I want to play this clip from Tyler from that episode, because I think that this really encapsulated where I think Canuck fans ended up. Just after you hear this, kind of think where we are with Canucks Nation after you hear this.
All right, Jake Virtanen.
Oh, that's not what I stop. Hang on. Sean's taking over here. What the hell is going on? Here, let me find it.
Not surprised.
Oh man,
I thought I had it in there. Sorry. Hang on one moment.
I was kind of glad that actually Jake didn't score last night, because the only thing I had in my mini fridge at the office was my co-host, the State of Hoppy on the Sota Pod, sent me a care package of Minnesota craft beers, and they have crowlers down there, which are like 750 ml cans, and that was the only thing I had. So I was like, and it was a peanut butter porter. So I'm like, Jake, if you fucking score, man, like, oh, this is gonna kill me.
All right, here's Tyler.
I kind of wondered after the draft lottery happened, why didn't they just do all this after the qualifying round? Well, it is certainly to drag it out and get some discussion going and some headlines and whatever. But, Sean referenced that I want to take the fan card away. And the reason why I want to take the fan card away is because I'm just getting tired of this narrative around Canucks fans, especially the ones on Twitter, that we're always cheering for the team to lose. I'm tired of the losing attitude. It's just, I straight up said it's stupid. Like, it's just stupid to be cheering for a 12.5% chance at drafting first. You have a core. You haven't been in the playoffs in, what is it now, 5 years? Like, in so many years, I'm losing track. Like, move forward with trying to get some playoff experience and cheering for your team to win. Plus, as it was pointed out to me by somebody else on Twitter, if the Canucks are to get through the qualifying round, then they can surrender their first round pick in the draft to Tampa Bay and complete the JT Miller deal. And it'll be 17th or lower in the draft. I mean, that works out to be a pretty good trade. Enough of this losing attitude is just pissing me off so much right now. And then,
there we go.
I love it. And it goes right back to the JT Miller trade like that. Canucks were just up in arms and Canucks media. It's like, what do you expect? You have to pay to bring in good players. This guy was a point per game player. And like you said, you traded a late round pick. So
yeah,
I love that. Was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Then after beating St. Louis, I mean, that moved the pick down the order even further, I think, to 24th or lower. So
yeah. And like you pointed out earlier in this conversation, the Canucks have players that they have to move and can move out to get back into the first round. Like it's going to be.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
And it's shout out to 650, shout out to N40. Both talk shows ended around 1:30 last night. The game started at 6, ended at around 8:30. That's like 5 hours of Canucks fans on two stations that were still talking. That's what winning does. That's what it brings to the market. And, I think this turned out a hell of a lot better than getting Alexis Lafreniere. I think.
Byfield, but okay.
Whatever.
Yeah. Canucks fans, being a bystander throughout this entire playoff run and watching the Canucks go, be proud of your team. This is a successful year for this franchise going forward. The young players getting the opportunity to play playoff hockey, to come back from a 3-1 deficit and play that game 7. Be proud of your team. Be excited for the future. And Vancouver Canucks have a very bright future ahead. And you'll be having a lot more playoff success because these young players got to experience this. And yes, it's within a weird circumstance of COVID, but that doesn't change the fact that they got that experience. And just be happy with where you guys came from and where you guys are now.
I mean, I agree. Overall, happy with the entire season, and I am proud of the team and the strides that they've made. And it's kind of like when you go back to 2011, you were so proud of the accomplishments that team made and the fact that they made it all the way to the end. But you don't have to be proud of that last game in 2011. You don't have to be proud of the last game, yesterday. And that's where I stand. I'm happy with the team. I'm excited to see their development. But I'm not going to pretend like I'm happy about how it ended. But overall, so excited to see how this team builds around this young and exciting core. And it's going to be fun. The next 10 years are going to be a lot better than these last ones.
Absolutely.
The coach always talked about the team being there to win, not for experience. And I hope that spills over to the fans now. I'm pretty confident that the loser attitude is gone with how it's gone in this run. And that will put new pressure on the players next year with the expectation of getting back to the postseason and getting further. But that's great. That's why we watch sports. We're there to feel like we're going to push forward the next attempt at it. And, it's time to get past the whole draft lottery business and worry about taking a good team and making it better now.
And like the Sedins, PD wants that. He's always dialed in, and he just wants to win. He's wanted to win ever since he stepped on the ice. And I love that, like, the Swedish torch has been passed to the new Swede who's gonna, bring that extra edge and just winning mentality. And I know Bo Horvat's the captain, but with Elias Pettersson, him, Markstrom, I think it's going to be, assuming Markstrom stays, I think that this is going to be an awesome leadership group to bring this team into a competitive status.
And as Dr. Bonnie Henry said,
Well, I was very happy to see the Canucks, and you're just lamenting to my colleagues who are Leafs fans. Sorry.
She's the queen.
Sorry, Devin, I had to do that. All right, I just want to take a couple minutes here, if I can, just to give up some shout outs and thank yous. We have been doing the OGs on this are Sean, Tyler, and I. We started when the Trevor Linden debacle happened in July of 2018. We just started doing this on weekly things, and we've grown a lot the last since COVID happened, since pandemic happened. We've done a hell of a lot of work. So I want to give a shout out, first of all, to thank you to Tyler and Sean and Heidi and Chris and Devin for jumping on board. And we were doing weekly stuff when it was tough to do some weekly stuff. We did it. We were able to get some interviews. So I want to just also say thank you to Kevin Woodley for coming on. Rick Dollywall came on. Pat Steinberg came on. Curran came on. I'm drawing a blank on his first name. Sorry. But he came on. Isha has been jumping on with us. Thank you, Isha. Bryce Chevalier came on. Chris Faber came on.
Corey
Matt
Hergott, Derek Newmeyer, you got a few there.
Derek Newmeyer came on. Cam Robinson came on.
Yes.
We didn't come in and get 2,000 followers right away, but I think I'm proud to say that I think we have we've made a dent in the hockey podcast community, and I just want to give a shout out to all the hard work of everyone that's put it in. Devin put together the website, hockeypodcast.com. Sean's and Heidi have been working on the social media. Tyler with his expertise, Chris with his support, and having people wanting to come on and join us, having people jumping on Facebook Live. It's a great start, and I'm really excited at where we're going forward overall. And it's not like we're done. We're not done in any way, shape, or form. But, since the Flames year is over, the Canucks year is over for now, I want to take the time to say thank you for everyone for jumping on board with this. And this has been a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys, because for someone who's lives on Vancouver Island, who bleeds blue and green, I've been covering the Minnesota Wild all year and have been have all this built up Canucks, energy to want to talk about it. And you've given me the outlet here to shoot the breeze with you guys, talk beer, talk sports, and talk about the Canucks. So I really appreciate it. It's been a good outlet for me, because there's only I love the Minnesota Wild. It's been such a fun team to cover. The market's outstanding. But man, I just want to talk about my boys and watch some hockey, and it's been a pleasure, guys. So I really appreciate it.
Tyler, Devin, did you go? Oh.
Yeah, thanks for those props, Kev. It's been I think it's coming on a year that I've kind of been on and off with the podcast, and yeah, I'm super excited going forward. We got a bright future ahead of us, and yeah, I'm super jacked for the coming years.
Mm-hmm. I have nothing else to add there, Kevin.
All right, let's leave it there. How do we follow everyone?
I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
I am Gordhouse09 on Twitter.
At VI Sports Talk, but also support my company at HockeyPodNet.
Yes, absolutely. You follow Sean, Beardy Connect 03. Heidi is Hyde Amazeballs. Chris is Schneids, SCHNEIDZ. I am KVOLE, podcast_hockey. Subscribe on iTunes, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, Facebook Live, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you get your social medias. Thanks again, everyone. And we will talk to you all very, very soon. We don't have a plan for what's coming up next, but you'll hear it. Bye for now. Oh, we got comments. I missed those. Oh, shit. I missed the comments. It's hard to monitor everything.
Still see the live on YouTube thing going up there.
I know.
So like that Family Guy gag there where they thought they were off the air and they're saying all kinds of stuff, and the floor director says, "We're still on in Boston."
Yeah.